This little example is very similar to what you are going to be working with when you convert wind-chill factor from JavaScript to Jquery. And this is an example you have all worked with. It is the Bmi Calculator. Primary difference in this example is that the script is at the bottom of the HTML file instead of a separate file. But the modifications that I'm going to make to this are almost identical to what you have to do in Windchill. And I did try to kind of walk through this whole process. So I'm going to walk through it and actually do it over here so you can get the full picture. The primary thing that you are going to be modifying in most of these lines of code is the document get element by ID business. That is much shorter in jQuery. So I'm going to go ahead and just comment this out for right now. And then right below that, I'm going to go ahead and start putting in my code. And in jQuery, all of the code is inside this document.ready function wrapper. And nothing gets executed until basically the document loads. So you can either start with this statement or you can just use the shortened version, which is what I'm going to do. And that will be your first line. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in the closing curly brace, right parenthesis, and semicolon. And all of my code is going to go in between. Now, because it's not even going to get in and execute the code until the page is loaded, there is no reason for us to check to see if the page is loaded. Nothing's going to execute until the page loads. So the very first thing we can do is simply call getFocus. And that will replace this command. And we're going to skip over the calculate now, and we're going to go to the next command, which is looking for the reset button. So the idea here is when the page loads, we want the focus on wait. And when they click reset, we want whatever message is displayed erased, and then we want the focus put up on wait. And you would think that you would just be able to code something like this, right? The reset ID dot on click and then call get focus. So there is a little glitch in jQuery, and it may be because it's passing click and the function to the on method. But the glitch is that it won't put focus on anything if it's the result of a click. So that's kind of a weird thing that you have to remember. And the simplest workaround that actually works is you can still have a listener checking for them clicking that reset button. Then all you have to do is run an anonymous function, and inside the function, call getFocus. That works. Okay. And if you try to code this, it does not work. So just to show you, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put that in here, and I'm going to also copy what works. And these are event listeners. We haven't actually coded the function yet. And for right now, I'm going to comment the second one out. the one that works. And I'm going to go ahead and code in the function next. So for the function itself, this is the old one right here. You can see we've got document get element by ID weight dot focus. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace all of this with the dollar and then the pound weight. And then we're going to call focus. And to kind of wipe out the message area down here, instead of using document get element by ID BMI, we are going to be using the dollar and then the hashtag BMI. And in place of inner HTML, all we have to do is .html and put a space in there. So this is way simpler. And let's put that in there. And I'm going to save it. And at this point, if I reload, let me see, get focus. Yeah, it's not liking anything. JavaScript, okay. Oh, I know why. Okay, might have to jump ahead here. It does not like jQuery unless you tell it about the jQuery library. And that actually has to go above wherever you're using the script. So even if I had this in an external file and I was going to link to it, I still have to put the jQuery library above that. So now I'm going to save it. There we go. Yay, it works. And if I reset, that should work too. Now that is not working because of that glitch I told you about, right? It does not like get focus, any kind of focus when you use click. So we're going to comment that out. Let's take the comments out of this anonymous function. And this works. It's very simple and it works. And if you look up this problem on the web, jQuery get focus or jQuery focus doesn't work, there are all sorts of convoluted solutions. This works great. Okay, so I'm going to save this and let's reload and reset and see how that is now keeping the focus. And it was just a matter of calling get focus inside an anonymous function. So that works. I'm going to get rid of the line that doesn't work. And now we're done with everything except converting this nice big long anonymous function. So we've got our listener, and then that's when that gets clicked, we're going to run through this anonymous function. So we can add kind of a traditional jQuery listener for this. If we go back over here and take a look, what we are going to be doing is using our calculate ID, calling the on method, checking for a click, and running an anonymous function. That's pretty straightforward. And the hashtag calculate is replacing all of that. Okay, then we've got dot on, and we're checking for a click. That is replacing the add event listener and the click portion. And I'm going to go ahead and put in that closing curly and the parenthesis. just because I always am in the habit of doing that so I don't forget. First thing it does up here is it defines two variables, which we're also going to do. We just need to put dollar signs in front of them. Because jQuery is a JavaScript framework, we can use all of the JavaScript functions and methods. So we're going to use parse float. The part that we have to change is this little section here. And so we're going to do the dollar, and then in the parentheses, we're going to do hashtag wait. And then to access the value in a form, it's just .val with a left and right parenthesis. And we'll be doing the same exact thing for height. Okay, and those two lines are over here. So you can see everything inside the call to parse float has been changed and shortened because we're using jQuery. And at this point, we have the values that were entered, and now we just need to do a little error handling. So we have a nested if else here, and we're going to do the same thing for our jQuery. In fact, it's going to be really similar. I'm showing you how similar it is. I'm just going to copy this JavaScript code, and I'm just going to modify it here so you can see how very similar the code is. It's just that jQuery basically shortens it up a little bit. So we have to put the dollar in front of the variables. That's something that people quite often forget, and that will give you an error if you forget it. And then remember that all of this business gets replaced by the dollar. And then in double quotes, we've got the hashtag BMI. And then inner HTML gets replaced with HTML. And then in parentheses, that's where we put our message. Okay, so the if now has been converted, and we're going to take a look at our else if. So is not a number. We can still call that. We just need to send it $weight and $height. And then document get element by ID, BMI, inner HTML is replaced with this. Same little replace that we just did. And then we don't use an equal sign here. We put it in parentheses. Because we're basically passing the values to a method that handles it. We're not assigning anything here. And then for the else, we have to put a dollar in front of the BMI, dollar in front of the weight, dollar in front of the height. And then again, this has to change. So we're using the $BMI to replace document get element by ID BMI. And we're replacing inner HTML with a .html. And then there is no equal sign. This is all in parentheses. And the values that we have in here, the text string is fine, but we have to put a dollar in front of BMI. And math.floor can be used because it is from a JavaScript library and we still have access to all of that. So at this point, everything should be converted over. So I'm going to save this, come over here, and let's just enter something, calculate, reset, and it works. So you are going to be doing something almost identical. Main changes that you're going to be making is basically anything that says document.getElementById. You're going to be replacing using the Jquery selector. And if you were updating inner HTML, it's just .html. Anytime you create a variable, you just have to remember to put a $sign in. And then keep in mind that jQuery won't even run until the document loads. So any kind of Windows load code, you actually don't even have to worry about. Just sticking your code inside the document.ready function in jQuery ensures that the page has loaded.